Quavo went from looking untouchably rich
Rapper Quavo allegedly failed to pay, now this is what TMZ say, a massive seven-figure tax
to suddenly facing serious financial pressure almost overnight, and the reaction from fans has been difficult to watch. According to reports,
The IRS claimed Quavo owes $915,000 on one event in 2021, and in 2022 he ate 887,000.
the rapper has been hit with a massive $3 million federal tax lien, and the IRS has now placed a legal claim over nearly everything he owns until that debt is paid. So what exactly happened here?
And then in 2023 he owed 1.1 mil, bringing his total to $2.9 million that he.
Let's break down the situation step by step and look at what the IRS actually filed and why this case hits differently from the usual celebrity money headlines.
Just because you see somebody look a certain way doesn't mean that they are living that certain way. Doesn't mean that their finances is projected.
In January 2026, the IRS officially made its move on Quavo. There were no warning shots in the public eye, no quiet rumors beforehand. Instead, the government filed a full notice of federal tax lien against Quavius Kiate Marshall in the state of Georgia.
And the next thing you know, IRS is knocking at your door because you really didn't have it like that, and you didn't calculate, you didn't carry the one.
Documents that were first obtained and reported by TMZ on March 4, 2026, revealed the core of the problem. According to the IRS, Quavo failed to pay his federal income taxes for 3 consecutive years, and now the government wants the money back. The total amount owed? $2,912,644.33.
Saying that they broke. I'm just saying it's a lot go with it. Just because a person is rich doesn't mean they're rich, because if their finances are not allocated.
But that number didn't appear overnight. It built up year by year. According to the filing, the IRS claims Quavo owes $915,760 for 2021, $887,186 for 2022, $1,109,497.79 for 2023.
You can have a guy that's got 10 million, but he's 30 million in debt. That guy's broke. He don't know how to deal with finances well, but he still has the big home.
Each year, the bill grew larger, and that pattern isn't random. What we're looking at is a classic case of compounding penalties and interest stacking on top of unpaid taxes. Once the original tax balance goes unpaid, the IRS begins adding penalties. Then interest builds on those penalties. Over time, the number snowballs, and the internet noticed immediately.
Times, been doing the right thing, he just got people that's stealing from him, and whoever's supposed to handle the taxes ain't paying them, and they were stealing, so they just pocket.
When the TMZ report hit social media, commentators started running the numbers in real time. One observer summed it up bluntly: nearly $2 million before you even get to the 2023 taxes. Now, it's important to understand what a federal tax lien actually means. A lot of people see headlines like this and assume federal agents are about to kick down the door. That's not how it works, at least not yet. A federal tax lien is essentially the government placing a legal claim on everything a taxpayer owns. That includes property, vehicles, bank accounts, royalty income, and even future earnings. In other words, the IRS is staking its position as first in line to get paid.
A lot of artists be going through that. It's just sometimes, or most of the times, the artists will catch it before the IRS.
The agency typically files a lien only after 3 things happen. The tax debt has been officially assessed, the government has demanded payment, and the taxpayer has failed to resolve the debt. According to coverage from Billboard on March 4, 2026, the filing includes the IRS's standard language: "We have made a demand for payment of this liability, but it remains unpaid. Therefore, there is a lien in favor of the United States on all property and rights to property belonging to this taxpayer."
He was over his money. He probably had a financial advisor or accountant that was over it that didn't do.
In plain terms, that means Uncle Sam now has a legal grip on everything Quavo owns. Want to sell your house? The IRS gets paid first. Try to move assets around? The government is already waiting. The lien doesn't mean immediate seizure of property, but it does mean that the federal government now has senior claim over Quavo's assets until the debt is cleared.
My brother, man, we took the biggest loss fight ever, and like people don't understand, like personally.
The filing was recorded in Georgia, where Quavo lives and where most of his assets are located. And the timing of this situation becomes even more interesting when you zoom out a little. Just weeks before Quavo's lien was filed, something very different happened within the same circle. In December 2025, the IRS actually released a tax lien against Quavo's fellow Migos member, Offset, after Offset paid off his own tax debt. That debt totaled $1,547,266.73 for the 2022 tax year.
First, it was Offset owing the IRS, and Offset settled his debt to the.
Offset handled his situation. Quavo didn't, and that contrast wasn't lost on anyone watching. Two members from the same legendary rap group, two very different outcomes. One cleared his tab, the other one ended up with a federal lien now sitting in the public record. As of March 2026, Quavo and his team have remained completely silent about the situation. No public statement, no dispute filed, and no confirmed payment plan has been announced.
Sam is saying to Quavo, hey, how are you doing? You need to pay.
The lien is active, and it's sitting there in the open for anyone to see. But the real question isn't just how much Quavo owes. The real question is this: does he actually have the cash to pay it? Because on paper, the answer looks simple. In reality, it's far more complicated. And according to the lawsuit, that negligence directly contributed to the deadly shooting. The case is seeking more than $1 million in damages, arguing that the venue failed to provide proper security despite knowing high-profile guests were present that night.
Continue that, like it ain't the same juice.
Quavo's personal assistant, who is also present during the incident, has filed related legal claims connected to the same event. As of March 2026, no settlement and no verdict has been publicly reported in the case. But the legal complications surrounding that night didn't stop there. When Takeoff, whose real name was Kirshnik Kari Ball, died, he left behind something that complicated the situation even further. He died without a will. That means his estate, estimated to be worth around $26 million, had no clear written instructions for how his assets should be divided.
Migos and took a big hit ever since Takeoff lost his life. Ever since really.
Most of that wealth was built from his share of the Migos catalog, streaming royalties, performance revenue, property holdings, and luxury vehicles. Because there was no will, the estate falls under Georgia's intestacy laws. Under those laws, when a person dies without a spouse or children, the inheritance is divided between their surviving parents. That means the estate is legally split between Takeoff's mother, Titania Davenport, and his biological father, Kenneth Ball. And that is where things became complicated. Kenneth Ball had limited involvement in Takeoff's life for many years, but he later stepped forward and intervened in the wrongful death lawsuit in late 2023, asserting his own financial claim to the estate. With no will, no written direction, and a valuable catalog still generating money, the situation left a state-appointed administrator responsible for managing the estate while family tensions unfolded through the courts.
Album and that happened, and the album, I didn't want to do music. I had to say something. I didn't want to talk about.
Offset said it plain.
I ain't really found nothing that could to handle it, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, I got kids, I got sons.
But for Quavo personally, the loss of Takeoff carried consequences that went beyond legal paperwork. Takeoff wasn't just his nephew, he was also his closest musical partner. After the death, Quavo lost the most productive working relationship he had outside of the full Migos group. There would be no more duo performances, no more collaborative albums, and no more joint touring revenue. That touring revenue had once been massive. At their peak, during the Culture Tour between 2017 and 2019, Migos were reportedly generating over $30 million from touring alone.
The video has surfaced of Quavo and Sweetie getting into a scuffle on an elevator, and the altercation was actually obtained by TMZ.
The footage hit the internet like a grenade.
Like, I watched the video and it just seems like a very toxic situation for both of them. She's swinging at him, he's moving out the way, and it seems like they're fighting over the bag, grabbing.
By 2021, full group touring had already slowed dramatically. After Takeoff's death in 2022, even the Quavo and Takeoff duo format disappeared overnight. What replaced that income structure was far less predictable. Instead of massive group tours and collective brand deals, the money shifted to solo projects, guest features, and smaller performance guarantees. Without the full group together, the brand power that once allowed Migos to command enormous booking fees simply wasn't the same.
Quavo talk every other week, man.
Because
it be the internet trying to do some more. But with us, it ain't.
That's what I'm getting at.
Quavo himself has spoken about lessons he learned regarding money during the Migos era. In interviews, he admitted that early in his career he sometimes kept large amounts of cash at home instead of moving it through proper financial systems. During a 2023 interview on Revolt TV, he said those were habits he was trying to correct, but he never directly connected those financial lessons to the IRS lien.
Hey man, it's family at the end of the day, man. You gonna bump head with your family sometime.
He didn't have to, because the tax years the IRS is now pursuing, 2021, 2022, and 2023, almost perfectly overlap with the period following Takeoff's death. And the IRS doesn't pause for grief. The clock keeps running. As Offset once explained, grief can shut down decision-making.
I think you could pay like an M up front, 1.5 up front, and tell them you'll pay them $50K a month, $40K a month, $60K a month.
Pulls focus away from paperwork, accountants, and the people responsible for handling financial details. When someone is dealing with personal trauma, it becomes much easier for problems to quietly build in the background. And if the people managing the money aren't fully trustworthy, something Quavo had already suggested in previous legal disputes, that combination can allow 3 years of unpaid taxes to stack up without anyone catching it until the issue becomes public. Takeoff's death didn't just break the group emotionally. It also shattered the financial structure that had supported them for nearly a decade. But the fallout didn't stop there, because what happened next between Quavo and Offset turned that personal tragedy into a very public split.
Both we had tax problems and they bounced back. So, wow, he may be down to his last couple of M's. It don't matter if in the next year or two he gonna turn that bitch back up to 10, 15, to 20 M.
After Takeoff's passing, tensions between the two slowly began to surface. It didn't explode in one dramatic moment. Instead, it unfolded gradually through cryptic social media posts, deleted tweets, podcast comments, and anonymous reports, creating a slow-burn feud that stretched through 2023 and into 2024. Financial tension had already existed before the tragedy. Several outlets reported that Offset felt he had been shorted financially in certain Migos arrangements, particularly regarding performance revenue and merchandise splits during the group's peak touring years between 2017 and 2019. He hinted at those frustrations in scattered interviews and social media posts. Exact numbers were never publicly confirmed, but the narrative that the money wasn't right became a recurring theme in media coverage. Then things escalated publicly during the 2023 Grammy Awards. Offset claimed he had been blocked from participating in the In Memoriam tribute for Takeoff, which triggered reports of a heated backstage confrontation involving members of Quavo's team. Offset later clarified that there had been no physical fight, but confirmed that the tension between the camps was very real. Two men mourning the same person, standing in the same building, but on opposite sides of a conflict. That kind of emotional fracture doesn't heal overnight, and there was another complicated layer to it. Takeoff was Quavo's nephew, but he was also Offset's biological cousin. Offset publicly expressed that he felt excluded from certain family decisions after Takeoff's death, while Quavo's public tributes centered primarily around his own relationship with his nephew. Both men were grieving, but the way they processed that grief placed them in direct conflict. The business consequences were significant. Whatever commercial infrastructure remained around Migos as a group effectively shut down. There were no reunion tours, no collaborative releases, and no major brand partnerships built around the group name. The Migos catalog continued generating royalties, but no new revenue streams were being created from the brand itself. And long before the IRS lien ever appeared, Quavo had already taken another reputational hit. That controversy dated back to March 2021, when his relationship with Saweetie ended publicly. Saweetie announced the breakup on Twitter with a message that clearly referenced infidelity, writing, "I'm single. I've endured too much betrayal and hurt behind the scenes for a false narrative to circulate that degrades my character." Quavo responded the same day, expressing disappointment but never directly addressing the cheating allegations. Then, less than 2 weeks later, TMZ released surveillance footage from 2020 showing a physical altercation between the two inside an elevator at Saweetie's apartment complex. When the footage hit the internet, it spread instantly. As one radio host on The Breakfast Club put it at the time, the video hit the internet like a grenade. 2 years later, Quavo admitted in a July 2022 interview with GQ that the incident had heavily affected his public image. He said he disliked how people interpreted the footage, explaining that viewers immediately assumed the situation was abusive. No criminal charges were filed. No civil lawsuit followed between the two. The most visible financial fallout was symbolic. A custom blue Bentley that Quavo had gifted Saweetie for Christmas in 2020 was taken back after the breakup. Saweetie later confirmed the repossession in a September 2022 interview, joking that she simply went out and bought her own Rolls-Royce afterward. No major endorsement deals were reported as canceled. No court judgments followed. But the reputational damage lingered during one of the most turbulent periods of Quavo's career. By 2025, there were signs that the relationship between Quavo and Offset had begun to repair. Offset revealed during a podcast interview that the two were speaking every other week again, describing their past conflict as nothing more than normal family bumps. The feud had cooled, but the financial damage had already been done. The collapse of group touring, the reduction in collective income, and the shift toward individual projects all happened during the exact years the IRS now claims Quavo failed to pay taxes. When you pull all of these threads together, the legal battles with former attorneys, the valet assault verdict, the ongoing copyright disputes, the death of Takeoff, the split with Offset, the reputational controversies, the IRS lien no longer looks like a random event. It looks like the final bill arriving after a long stretch where nearly everything that could go wrong did. Industry commentators who have examined the situation point out that there is still a clear path forward. The IRS regularly negotiates structured payment plans. In many cases, the government would rather receive money gradually than spend years pursuing asset seizures through lengthy legal proceedings. The lien became public on March 4, 2026, and every day it remains unresolved, penalties and interest continue to accumulate. What happens next is entirely up to Quavo.